There it is. Now it says live. Now it's official.
All right, it's official. We're live. So Car Guy here, and I'm here with Jason Samko. You guys can check him out on YouTube at Jason Samko. Most of you know my channel, youtube.com/@thecarguy_online. We're going to discuss, man, a smattering of big topics. I think there's a huge, man, just a growth of two different camps. There's the people that really want that durable, classic durability, kind of like we put in the title. And then there's the camp that really likes that modern technology, better riding trucks. But there's been a lot of issues with them. So we're going to kind of go through, run the gamut on all the topics tonight, if we can, as fast as we can. And hopefully I'll just get better at this as we do more live streams, and then we'll
probably hit a couple tangents as well too, and a few different rabbit holes as part of the game. Yeah, we talked yesterday. Well, when you called me yesterday, we talked. What it was supposed to be like a 10-minute conversation. It was 3 hours.
yeah. We're just I pace around with the phone. That's what I do. Pace around and talk.
We should have had. That's what we said. We're like, we should have just hit the record button then, because we covered almost every topic there is and all that kind of stuff. A lot of it was YouTube algorithms and that kind of behind the scenes stuff. But would have been a great live show even then yesterday.
Oh yeah. Yep, for sure. Well, we could start. I think we should start with something that we didn't even think we were going to talk about, which is just to start it off, that inflation piece. When, we just did a live stream. I did it with Tim, and I noticed a lot of people are just, they get upset when, whether it's TFL or, Tim from Pickup Truck Talk or any of these guys say, hey, look, trucks aren't that expensive nowadays. And they'll give examples of, say, like a 2011 or whatever it is. Actually, I could, do you remember this video just came out? We'll just cut to this real quick from TFL. Did you see this video?
I did. Yep.
Well, yeah, basically it's TFL doing a video with it's a 2011 F-150 versus the new, and man, the comments in this video, I'm not gonna go through them because I don't want to, it's not, it's their channel. I'm not gonna. I feel for them a little bit, but the comments really show kind of what I saw on my channel with Tim, which is there's a camp of people that they feel like it's not just the cost of the truck that matters. So if you compare that 2011 F-150 that costs $41,000 versus a new one that costs, maybe it's $48,000 or $50,000, and they say, well, the cost of inflation, that's not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a jump over that long of a period. And I think what you and I were talking about was they're not factoring in things like health insurance. Your car insurance has doubled, your homeowner's insurance has doubled, your property taxes have doubled, all these other things that aren't included in that factoring yet. What do you think about that?
I'm right there with you. And it's everything that's there. And we were talking off air when we were talking about that and discussing it. We were saying that especially somebody who has a job that is a salary, or it is a 40-hour week, it is a paycheck, it is a weekly or whatever paycheck that's coming in, a sort of fixed income, we could say that they have. And yet every 6 months, like you said, insurance, whatever it is, but all these things keep taking more money out of that fixed income, leaving them with less and less. And they may not have that option to work more overtime, or as self-employed people pick up more jobs or do more things. They may not have that luxury. So, and I would say that the bulk of the country lives that paycheck to paycheck type of lifestyle, where it's the same money coming in unless there's a review at the end of the year, but that's their world to work with. And every month or every time, it seems like some company or business is taking another chunk of that from them. So inflation is one thing. Yeah, the prices of cars may not have changed that much inflation wise, but the amount of available income to use towards said cars or any of that other kind of stuff, it's greatly reduced by every other aspect, from streaming services to cable bills to cell phone bills to, like you said, your property taxes, your car insurance, like we were talking about, you were saying car insurance, homeowners insurance, health insurance, all of this stuff is just taking so much of their money away. There's nothing left anymore. And so I can feel the frustration for them. And then when you got eggs costing $7, and you got 4 mouths to feed, it's unreal. It's too brutal for everybody, and they feel it, and they're frustrated. And the last thing they want to hear is somebody tell them that, you know what, I bought this truck, you should be able to buy this truck too. If you can't afford this, you're doing something wrong, because it's not true. It's inflation is one thing, but free money at the end of when you've paid all your bills, that is not working with the way inflation is also. So there's less money for people to take advantage of.
Here's you see this comment that just came in from
I'm on
Jane Parker.
Let me actually go to comments. I'm on. I see him now. I'm seeing it. What's they?
Yeah, she's asking for tips to buy a used pickup and looking to transport dogs, furniture, lumber. 10-year-old Ford Ranger or Toyota Tacoma. Man, it's tough because the Tacoma's super reliable, but lately, at least what I see in the used Toyota market is they're so inflated just because of the name. And then the new Toyotas came out and they weren't as reliable. So you end up seeing that the newer Toyotas cost a little bit less. Even like the used 2022 Tundras are less than a 2021 Tundra. So I haven't looked at that.
The Tacoma's the same. It's the same way. I've seen them on a lot. I did a couple of videos on those where you had a used 2024 and a used 2023, and a used 2023 was actually more than a 2024. Yeah.
So advice for, man, that's a tough one. I would go drive them both. Look at reliability ratings on, an easy site like carcomplaints.com and just drill down to the years you're looking at and compare the reliability. Make sure there's no catastrophic problems with the engine or transmission, and then kind of go from there.
Yeah. And the Ranger is a good truck. I mean, when did this one come out? 2019? Is that when it came out for the new style, I think?
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, something like that. So if you're going back 10 years, you're back past that. But Ranger's always been a pretty reliable little truck. They're easy, so if you're beyond that and you're back before the 2.3 turbo, and stuff like that, which is a fantastic motor. But now you're talking naturally aspirated 4-cylinder, and it probably affordable to work on. My last Ranger I owned was 97 or 98, but I would imagine, I don't know what that 10-year ago Ranger motor would have had in it, but I think it would have been an option for a V6 and for a 4-cylinder, and both of them naturally aspirated, simple, low power. They're probably going to be very reliable and cheap to work on.
Yeah. What do you think about Dan here? He says, would you go Power Wagon or Tremor? I guess, it could be year dependent, all sorts of stuff there.
Yep. And for me, it'd be, if I'd go Power Wagon. And the reason for that is the Power Wagon is smaller than those are both off-road trucks. That's my whole world. But with the Power Wagon is a little bit smaller in size than the F-250 is in a Tremor, so it's more maneuverable, more flickable, and I get the front lockers. Motor-wise, the Hemi that's in the Power Wagon is amazing, and the 7.3 in a Tremor would be absolutely amazing too. So the motors are a complete wash. They were both solid front axle. I'd go Power Wagon for the size and the front lockers, but I get very mad at the Power Wagon for the tiny roller skate tires they put on it with the little 33s on it. So I'd have to go 35 minimum. 37 would be great, but either one of them, I don't think you can fit a 37 in the spare underneath. So tough call, but both amazing trucks. But for me, the size of the Power Wagon make it a little better.
Yep. Yeah, and then we got Lynn Jane coming back. She says, what pickups are dependable, affordable? So this is funny because there are some pickups that I think people overlook, and Nissan had a bad name because of their CVTs. But if you look at kind of the older Frontiers, there are some really affordable older Frontiers. I would look at 2010 to 2018-ish, that range. You got the 4-liter port injection. You don't have high pressure fuel pumps. You don't have a lot of things that, I mean, those were just dead reliable. You had one little transmission bypass you could do that would take you 20 minutes if you really wanted to get it perfect with that 5-speed transmission it had. But man, they just didn't have any problems. My dad has an Xterra. It's got 224,000 miles on it with that 4-liter, and that thing is so torquey and runs like brand new. My sister has an Xterra, 4-liter, 5-speed, 2009s, and they run as good or better than any of the new stuff, and they haven't had any problems.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that me being down here in the South, we don't get snow down here or any conditions like that. So I see a lot of vehicles running around, and I'll tell you what, I see more 10 and 15-year-old Frontiers than I do new Tacomas out here. I mean, they're running around everywhere and they look brand new. They're running like a champ. They work fantastic,
Yeah.
And the Xterras too. See them everywhere. And I drool over the Xterras. My buddy John had one. So like you said, he had it for like 10 years, put 5 million miles on it or something. And it just kept right on going. It was sunburnt, looked like rough as can be, but the thing just never stopped moving.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's one for you, Jason. This is a good one. 2.7 Turbo Max. I know what Jason's going to pick.
2.7 Turbo Max or 2.7 EcoBoost. You know what? I've owned both. Now, the downside or the only thing I can say is I've only owned a 2.7 for 4,800 miles in Tina's, Colorado, where we're sitting now. But the EcoBoost, I've owned a couple of them in 150s, and I would run those 150s to just shy of 100,000 miles. And I'm talking towing all the time, towing anything from 4,000 to 7,000 pound trailers. They would run like a champ, and both of them are amazing. I never once had a problem with an EcoBoost turbo. And honestly, I know the world is V8 this and that, and I have a lot of respect for a naturally aspirated engine. I love the one in my Gladiator. But realistically, more and more, I'm convinced that the reliability we're getting out of the turbos is getting to be really, really good now that these motors are built around them. The EcoBoost being an example of that. When it came out, it was turbo failure problems constantly. It's been out now for over a decade. The thing's running top notch and they work perfect. So and it's hard to beat if you go. Here's the best advice I got on that thing is for somebody that's looking on a V8. Go drive a F-150 with a Coyote and take it on a loop and go enjoy it and drive it and really drive it. And then go do the same thing with a 2.7 or a 3.5 and then let your honest opinion, unbiased thing make that decision for you on what you think you like best. Or better yet, don't let the sales guy tell them, give me one of each and don't tell me what's in it. And then come back and say which one you like better. I'll bet you it's probably a turbo one. You know, so.
And I have one caveat to that for me, I have some friends that have that 2.7 EcoBoost. It's been great. And when I look at the lack of, there really haven't been that many failures with the 2.7 from GM, the Turbo Max. It's been super reliable compared to the other issues they've been having. The thing for me would be, is it going to be out of warranty or not? And when you look at the 2.7 on the EcoBoost, you've got two turbos. You've got a way more complex design, cam phasers, all the other sorts of things that are more complicated.
Still a V6 design. So double V6. Heads. Yep.
Yeah. You're going to have all sorts of, you have more timing, chain tensioners, all these things. But 4 cylinders, super simple, just fewer chains, fewer tensioners, one turbo. That turbo, I actually looked it up before this stream. I think the turbo on your truck on the 2.7 is, you can get them for like $1,400 or $1,800. So let's say you drive it for 100,000 miles and you got to put a new turbo in. It's accessible. You don't have to like pull the cab to do it in the GM. It's if you're already going to go to a turbo and you're talking 4 versus 6 for me, and if you're not towing over like 7,000 pounds, I'm going with what's going to cost less to maintain if something goes bad. But
and that's an excellent point. And the fact that that 2.7, like you said, that 2.7 has been built from the ground up by GM a few years ago after they watched the EcoBoost, the 2.7, the 3.5. They've seen what's happening. They paid attention to everything going on in the turbo world, and they built that motor. The famous engineering videos that are on this motor, the way it's done, the diesel-like bore and stroke that's part of this, the way all the hardened parts, everything that's done right on it. I got very high hopes for this 2.7 to be a very long-lasting motor. I straight up love it. Every time I drive that Colorado, I smile. It is. Yeah. I love my Gladiator. I love the naturally aspirated V6 in it, and it's very nice. But I'll tell you what, I love the 4-liter in the 4Runner that's literally sitting right there that I haven't sold. I just listed, haven't sold yet. But if you give me a choice, I'm taking that 2.7 all day long. It is just pure fun. Every time you're in it, it's there and you feel it and the torque is real and it's just straight up fun.
Yeah. We got another. This is probably my favorite question I've had in a while. I just looked at this, and once I saw 2021 V8 Tundra, I have to go for that one. That's the one I'd pick by far. They're just so reliable. I have that platform in my garage in the form of a Sequoia. It's a 2008 Sequoia with the 5.7, 234,000 miles on it. I have done a starter, and that is it. And I haven't replaced a wheel bearing, no U-joints, no nothing, just a starter. So, man, it's taken us across the country through deserts. It's just so darn reliable. So that's my pick for reliability. Now, if you're looking for fun, like Jason said, maybe the F-150. I don't know.
Well, I think you're 100% spot on. When you look at it, when you think of that 5.7, that Toyota motor, you're thinking tank is what you're thinking. The thing just it never fails. It just doesn't go down, and that's a beautiful thing. There's no doubt about it. But both the other ones, I love the 5.3. I know they've had some issues, but I straight up love that motor. When you drive it, it's a lot of fun. It does have the V8 growl. I think it sounds a little better than the Coyote, but I have a lot of respect for the Coyote. The thing's been around forever. You think about the 5.0. I mean, heck, Vanilla Ice was singing about it. A long time. It's just that motor has just been phenomenal. Yeah, they put some extra BS stuff that you don't want to deal with on there, and they put the wet belt. But I mean, again, I don't believe there's a motor is going to make it 200,000 miles today without needing some major maintenance anyway. So if you got to do it, might as well do it. And some of the guys commenting on our videos made great points, like with the 3-liter, that diesel. They're like, well, the timing belts or the wet belts in the back, you got to pull it off, the trans off to do it. At 200,000 miles, perfect time to put a new trans or rebuild it anyway. So do it all at one shot. If you got to pull it off to do that, put the new belt on, put a rebuilt trans in, and you're good for another couple 100,000 miles.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think about, this comment that we just had on the Toyota stuff? So I saw that Toyota is going to, their message to dealers was build more, sell more for 2025. So that tells me you're probably going to finally see that stock for newer Toyotas come up on the lots. You've seen this. I feel like it almost feels like they were artificially pulling stock back because they were the only ones with 30 days or less of supply on market. But now 2025, they sound like they've committed to really pushing a lot of inventory out. So you might see brand new trucks from Toyota come down in price even more. We're already seeing 72 month, 1.9% on the Tundras. That might force some of the used market down, so that 2021 Tundra might end up dropping in value a little bit over this, maybe spring, summer timeframe. So you might be able to get a better deal on them finally here coming soon.
I want really bad to, I want to see that Tundra just get this stuff fixed and get back on track. I think that truck I think the potential's there, like the Tacoma. I'll be the first to say again that I'm not happy with Toyota as a company. I don't like the allocation only. I do not like the shady business games they play in the background. I do not like the way that they don't, they're not open and transparent with the issues that do happen, and they kind of try to hide stuff or sweep it under the rug. Things that all companies do, but Toyota gets on my nerves as a business. But like their Tacoma, it's not the Tacoma that was there before. The Tundra is not what was there before. The 4Runner is not what was there before. But apparently there's enough people that want the new stuff. Look at the sales numbers for the Tacoma and look at the sales numbers for the Tundra. People are buying them like crazy. So, and you and me, our entire channels are based on one thing only: help customers. Help people, help them get the best decision, or give them the information to help them make the best decision. So we want nothing more than that Toyota Tundra to be absolutely incredible, so the customers and people buy them get the most out of their truck. And I really hope Toyota gets there. I think their Tacoma's proven really well. It's got some little stuff, the brake line issues. It had the trans issues. It had some things going on, but I hope that in the next year or two, Tundra's entire lineup, the 4Runner will have been out and get proven. The Sequoia's out, the Tundra's here, and they're working on that. And the Tacoma's getting. I really hope that Toyota has that where they're just back on that top and, it's there, but it'll never be what they were before. You're never going to have your 5.7 Tundra. We're never going to have the 4-liter Forerunner. And we're never going to have the 3.5 Tacoma again. Those days are long gone. We got to move on from them, but maybe we'll get back to something as closer as we can to it with Toyota. I have high hopes.
Well, I was just talking to Jason last night about this. Jason, you got a comment here.
What's that?
He says you were so much about the Forerunner. What changed? The truck is bulletproof. I think you still think it's bulletproof. You were telling me last night you're not sure if you want to get rid of it.
The Forerunner is amazing. You have to remember, though, you got two trains of thought here, and I try very hard to keep them unbiased, as we all do. But we have the train of thought, which is what my channel is geared towards, which our channels are geared towards, which is helping people with their decisions and their information to make choices for truck buying. On the same note, I have my own world, too, which is I've bought 42 new trucks now, and I'm 50 years old, and I switch them all the time, and I love them, and I'm not done trying them. The Forerunner is amazing. It is bulletproof on every level, and it wins hands down, in my opinion, the most reliable SUV that could ever be made in history today. It is my pick for that. However, I'm just straight up bored with it. We're done. We're moving on. I got other things I want to try. Love it. Amazing. And if I was looking to buy a truck and own it for the rest of my life and not do nothing with it, I would not sell that. But right now I'm sitting on a gold mine that's going to be worth more money than what I paid for it because of the new one coming out. I'd rather dump it, move on. I don't keep vehicles long enough, over 100,000 miles anyway. I'm not really personally worried about the reliability of them. They're all going to make it there without a problem. So different world for me in what I'm thinking. But if you're looking for a vehicle to last you for 10, 15, 20 years, 4-liter Forerunner, top of the world.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to last you for sure. And back to Toyota reliability, it's interesting because you always used to hear the Kaizen philosophy, that was the whole thing. And one piece to that was encourage small incremental changes over time. And what I saw them do from 2018 until now is the opposite of that, right? It was the complete opposite. It was, let's change everything, every vehicle we have, and from the ground up, opposite of why they, their whole philosophy, which is weird. And I think that's why they're, like Tim said, going through a moment. That's a nice way to put where Toyota is right now. And they're still building very high quality cars. My daughter has a 2018 Camry. There are still good cars out there. They just have these little flaws that they didn't used to have in Toyota. And like you said, hopefully they'll get them worked out.
Yep. We got high hope for them. We don't want them going down. We don't want anything going down. We want them to survive. We want them to get back on track. And the quicker they do, the quicker the people want to buy them. You know as well as I do, there's a world of Toyota loyalists out there that don't pay attention to the internet. They don't nothing. They just want to go buy a truck, and it's got to be a Toyota because their last one was good. More power to them, and we want them to have exactly what they had before. We want Toyota to be as successful as they possibly can. We just hope they'll do it quick,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to share this really quick. I was looking at this today, and, this is really uncharacteristic. And I think this is part of what we're seeing with Toyota, just trying to get everything squared away with these new platforms, the TNGF platform. And you look at the Sienna minivans, this is a minivan, right? You're hauling your kids around with this thing. 168,000 vehicles are involved in this recall. The bolts connecting the split, the 60-40 third row seats, they weren't tightened to specification. And it's like, you see that with these recalls on Toyota and Lexus and now the Tacoma brake line recall, and they're not huge catastrophic problems, but man, that is not what they used to be like,
right.
That's
and I'm glad you just showed me that too, because I was telling you yesterday, we have a 2024 or 2023 Sienna minivan. My dad does. It's that we got. I didn't even see that recall on there. I'm gonna have to let him know that recall is there. Yeah. Yeah.
It's not the end of the world. It's just, boy, if you were the one person that got in a wreck with it, it might be. But
right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's and then going back to talking about classic durability that we see in things, and I think comparing that TFL video that Andre did, when he's comparing an F-150 from 2011 to a current F-150, I think that's a good comparison for what TFL wanted to do, which is, they wanted to show that the little silo of vehicle prices hasn't gone up that much, and the truck's much nicer. A newer truck is much nicer. But if you take an example, and I commented on their video like this, Toyota, where you compare a 5.7 or a 4.7 Toyota, the first gen Sequoia and Tundra, the second gen Sequoia and Tundra, and you compare the reliability of those compared to the newest generation. And I think that's where you've got all the modern tech. The new ones ride nicer. But man, they have not been anywhere near as reliable. Objectively, I'm not a Toyota basher at all. It's clear to me.
Yeah. And again, everything is cost cutting and margins and all that kind of stuff. And then you have the, CAFE standards, you got EPA stuff, you got all this technology, you got all these things that it's just, there's no doubt that it can't be as good as what they were before. There's going to be problems, and then you can't work on this stuff yourself anymore. I mean, if you looked under the hood of some of these things that are out there in 2025, I don't even know which way's up or which way's part is where. Do they even have spark plugs anymore? Because I miss the days of distributor caps, and rotors. And actually, I still got a timing light in my toolbox. I haven't used it in a long time, but I mean, that's those were the days when we could work on stuff. Now it's all a trip to the dealership is what it means. And for most people, there's probably plenty of people watching this that are skilled enough to do that stuff. I'm not one of them anymore. Matter of fact, when I left Michigan and I moved down here, I sold my floor jack, my jack stands. I sold all that stuff. I'm like, I'm not doing it no more. I'll pay the $15 and let them rotate my tires. And when I got to actually do brakes on my truck, I'll do it then myself. And I'll use my bottle jack on a piece of wood for the once every 3 years if I got to do brakes, but it's like, I'm past that stage in my life where I want to spend time wrenching on vehicles, no matter what it is.
Yeah. I still wrench on vehicles all the time. I got a fleet because it's all my kids' vehicles outside. So it's like, I'm always doing something, but, man, the thing that bugs me, actually, I just saw C-Tech pop in here and he's got that.
What's up, Barry?
He's got that RHO, the newest Hurricane engine in the Ram. And I saw his live stream with Tim. And the one thing that was interesting to me was when I looked at the Ram at the dealership, the Hurricane engine, I was really surprised that, and I've always been shocked with this ever since I used to work on BMWs and stuff. And that inline six in the BMWs, the 3-liter from the 335s, twin turbo, it's very similar. It's like the Hurricane just looks like that stuffed in a truck and boosted, to the moon. But it's got plastic valve cover, plastic all over it. I was just shocked at the amount of plastic inside that engine, and knowing how hot turbos get, how hot the head gets, and all the plastic in there. That, to me, I look at that and I say I think it'll last. It could last through warranty just fine. It could even be a high mileage truck that over 5 years, maybe someone gets 150,000 or 200,000 out of it. And it's a fleet vehicle or something, and it's all highway miles, but I can't imagine all that plastic lasting like 20 years. Yeah. I just can't.
Well, there's definitely the time versus mile aspect, and, miles are hard on a truck sometimes. Highway miles are better than city miles. We know that kind of thing. But there is the time factor. And I don't think a lot of vehicles today, because of the technologies that are in them, are built for the time like they used to be, plastic being one of them. But I mean, you look at even a Tacoma, even a last gen Tacoma, tons of plastic in that thing, every hose connection, everything that was in there, tons of things like that. And, that motor has been proven pretty solid and reliable. Look at the Ford's using plastic oil pans now, and I mean, you hear a horror story here and there, same with like even the oil filter housings and things like that. But for the most part, they're proven and they're running a lot of miles on them. So, miles, one thing, time is the other. We don't know how that stuff will be 20 years down the road now. Yeah. Like you said, plastic rotting out, cracking, breaking, things going bad, heat constantly being heat cycled and cooled, that kind of stuff. But you would think if they're giving us plastic valve covers, it should cost a lot less than the metal ones we had before, but I don't think that's the case either.
No. When I used to do some work on BMWs and it was, you would see it. It was very clear around 100,000 and just before 100,000 miles that all that plastic stuff started to fail. And if it didn't, it may not crack, but it's just those heat and cold cycles depending on your climate and how old the car is. But man, you get twin turbo and BMW. It's interesting to me. I used to do a lot of work on those cars and just had them as tinker cars, and I would flip them. And it's interesting to see all of the problems that I used to be like, man, I would hate to own one of these as my personal vehicle, but I'll maybe buy them and flip them and fix them. And I just am shocked that all of the manufacturers seem to have taken cues from BMW and what didn't work. And that's what it feels like that's what they're doing with all these vehicles. More plastics, more CAN buses, high speed and low speed, and just electronics everywhere, electronics in lights that have radars and sensors in the back, and corrosion's going to mess everything up. And you have 900 computer chips in them. It's just, it's a mess, but
it's technology. The more it advances, the more these materials advance, the more stuff like that. It's, we don't know what it's going to be, but we know that when it comes to when you're talking reliability, like I said, I know that nothing beats it. Almost goes with the old displacement. Nothing, no replacement for displacement. Simple stuff. There was like I said, it was beautiful when we had distributor caps and rotors and timing chains, and everything was just simple in that kind of stuff. And it was easy for us to work on. Like I said, I think those days are coming to an end there, especially the work on. Like I said, I can't. And that's another thing. Look at right to repair, kind of thing with that. Even if you know how to do this stuff, half the time you can't these days. You're locked out.
Yeah. What do you think about when you compare your ZR2, it's hard because it's new and you probably don't want to mess it up. But if you're going to go do your hunting stuff, do you trust it, to go out, get you out and back? Or do you not want to take it out there? I saw your video talking about where the intercooler is located and all that swamping you do. And it's like, you don't want to just jam mud in there and potentially, mess that intercooler up. And what are your thoughts on that, comparing the Gladiator to that?
I would say that the ZR2 will do everything I needed to do. It'll get there. It'll get back. It'll do the stuff. I think it's built good enough to do that. But I think that the Gladiator is a better tool for it because of the front end that we have in there. And we do have a naturally aspirated air-cooled engine. We do not have that intercooler in the front. The mud, people don't understand. They have no idea unless you've been in the South. They don't know what I'm talking about when I mean mud. And I mean, I'm talking holes that are created by military vehicles with 60-inch tires on them in track vehicles. And in sand, it has no bottom. And then on top of that, we're talking about stretches of road that are 6-7 miles long that are literally peanut butter mud that is, 5 inches deep on top of it, what could be a little hard pack. I mean, the mud is unreal. Yeah. And, that's like people say too with the Ranger Raptor. Love the Ranger Raptor, but I would never buy one. And the reason because what I'm doing out there, all of the sensors and all of the things that are there, a part of that are under there, the connections that I constantly would have to open up all the time and put dielectric grease in and keep them sealed and hope they don't fail in the mud. And all it's just simple is better. The ZR2 scares the crap out of me when it comes to the DSSV suspension and when I got to replace it. The things like that can happen. There's a lot of really nice, expensive things on there that are great. But again, the environment I'm putting them into it's not good. It's not fun. And, so it scares me on that level. And then the only gripe I got on the ZR2 is that the ZR2 and the Bison should have different gearing. I understand that the power is there for the motor. 430 foot-pounds of torque is insane. So it has it. But we are still talking about 342 gears and 35-inch tires on a Bison. That's a lot of tire for not the right gearing. I understand why they do it for fuel mileage and all that kind of stuff because fuel mileage sucks on the ZR2. I'm like at 15.6. That's not real good for a 4-cylinder turbo. If I got the Trail Boss, I think these guys are running 20 mpgs. 19 or 20. I'm at 15.6 because of the 33s and no air dams and stuff like that on it. But but it is a wicked truck. And the power, like I said, I smile every time I drive that thing.
This guy, Matt's asking thoughts on 2025 GMC 2500 HD AT4. And he says 6.6 liter gas version. I love the looks of the AT4 and AT4X. That is if I had to pick a truck and I was like, I'm just going to get something and keep it through warranty, it's going to be an AT4, AT4X style GM. I just love the looks of them. Or like your ZR2 is just awesome. But, the only thing that would concern me is the transmission valve body on those at this point. That engine is it's been reliable, durable. I don't think there's any DFM on that one. So you're looking at no issues that I've seen with that engine yet. The only thing I would do is maybe by the time you hit 30,000 miles, I would just buy the next gen drivetrain valve body rebuild kit before don't let the transmission have problems. So if you keep it 30 or 40,000 miles, rebuild the valve body. It's like $800, $900. And then it's almost a guarantee that you're not going to have a transmission problem.
I've never actually driven. It's the only motor in a truck other than like the Raptor R's and the specialty stuff. But that's the only, stock motor like that I have never drove. Never drove the 6.6 gasser. So never been in there to know. But I will say one advantage in a 2500 world, a great advantage for many and a disadvantage for others is that the Silverado is the only one that has the GMC, or the GMC and a Chevy are the only ones that are a independent front suspension on the front. They do not have a solid front axle. So the ride quality of that GM 2500 on the road, on the highway, is going to be very, very nice, where the Ford and the Rams are both solid front axles. I'm not saying they're bad, and it's exactly what I want. I mean, I love those, but when I drive them, you can notice a difference in a 2500 GM. Now, I don't do driving reviews, so people don't see it, but I notice it. It's like, man, this thing's like butter. This is Cadillac quality here.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking through these. Oh, he says he's currently got a 2012 Ram 1500 with the 5.7, 146,000 miles. So, yeah, you'll see a big bump in torque with that 6.6 over the 5.7. It just depends on the, what's your tolerance for potential valve body issues down the road, and some of them don't have them. Some guys beat the tar out of them and don't have any problems, and there's just a lot of people that have, so something to think about. But
and Matt, love hearing hearing about the 5.7 with 146 on there too. It's nice. We like seeing that kind of stuff. You get our comments so often are junk, 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 and it's nice to hear somebody. I mean, like I said, I'm surprised there's already not 50 people under there. He's lying. He's paid for by Ram. He could never have 146,000 miles on a 5.7. And so I appreciate you putting that in there. Love seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, man, if I had taken the channel where I was going to go with it, I'd be paid for by Toyota probably, but I didn't. I took it down the honest path. So, yeah, it's an interesting thing. YouTube, you can't please everybody, that's for sure. What do you think's the most reliable half ton now? I've been considering a half ton, but I just have almost no reason to upgrade my Sequoia until it just dies. But I look at the 3-liter Duramax, and I see all these problems. Every truck has some issue. It's like it's the plastic on everything. It's the wet oil pump belts. It's the plastic water pumps. Whatever it is, everything has some drawback, but it's new and under warranty. So you have to kind of pick your poison.
So what would you say would be?
Yeah, what would you buy, a half ton, or what do you think is the most reliable half ton?
Two different questions there, because what I would buy is not
reliable.
Yes. But most reliable, in my opinion, honestly, and it's a small margin, because I do believe that Chevy builds an incredible V8, and I also love the 2.7 that you can get in a half ton. The 2.7 is incredible. And their diesel, 3-liter diesel. How great is that? So I'm really happy that those are there. And the Hurricane is the engine I would buy. I would personally buy. Now, however, I do not say it's the most reliable. If you're looking for the most reliable, in my opinion, it is any of the Fords, the 2 EcoBoost or the 5-liter that is in the F-150. I would say today is probably the most reliable. With the exception to that would be if you, because they're hard to find, but if you bought the Ram with a 3.6. I like the Ram with a 3.6, the Pentastar in it right now today. A Pentastar motor, one of my all-time favorites, and you can get a crate motor for like $5,000 10 years from now and slap it in there and be good for another 400,000. So I like that. So reliability-wise, It'd be that 3.6 in a Ram, or it'd be any one of the F series, the F-150s, the 2.7 V6, the 3.5, and the 5, or the Coyote. And I'd rank them in order of Coyote, 2.7 tied, and then the 3.5 after that, personally.
I would even put the Titan above them for reliability, but since it's discontinued, that's what Sandman was saying here. Titan's still around. It is. You can get 0% for 60 months right now, but they're discontinuing it. And I noticed I think they had a run on them because the prices shot up after the last couple months, man. They went.
There's only a few left. There's not that many of them out there. And if you want one, jump on them, because you're right. If you could throw that in, it's not made in 2025, so I didn't put it in there. But if you throw that in, it jumps automatically to the top.
Yeah. Yeah, and we got don't you think the 2.7 Turbo Max will suffer from the intake valve? So there's a thing about direct injection. I used to be really concerned about it, and man, I'd recommend most people should be installing catch cans and really freaking out over it. And I think I've watched a lot of different channels, whether it's Volkswagen's direct injection and Audi, and then the American stuff, and it's all, if it doesn't have port injection, they're starting to show that even around 70, 80,000 miles, there's not a lot of carbon buildup on a lot of these newer designs. So I'm not as worried about it as I used to be, but what do you think?
I look at all of the engine reliability stuff from a different standpoint, because I don't want to compare something that's out there now to something that was 10 years ago, because they're completely different. Even a Coyote from 6 years ago is not the Coyote V8 that you have today. So you have all these variations in there, and they make these changes. So when it comes to things like that, like the DI, and it comes to any of that kind of stuff, I try to only focus on those rare occasions where you find people that are running higher mileage versions of them on the forums, on the Facebook groups. You look for that. I look for the articles that talk about them, and I let those kind of things be my determining factor on them. As far as worrying about walnut blast and things like that, or any of that kind of stuff, I don't have any concerns, and I don't think that these issues are like they were years ago.
Yeah. Oh, our buddy C-Tech, he's asking, is there any truth to the 35% MSRP on drop on Ram trucks? Which ones? That would be my question. Is it are we talking the Pentastars, you think? Is that what he's asking?
I think he's just trying to, because the internet was flooded with all those people, Ram's going to drop all their prices. It's going to go down 35%. I think that's what he's getting at right there. And, I don't see 35%. We saw Gladiators hit 20% on remaining 2024s. But we also did see, if you compare my 2023 base Rubicon Gladiator, it's a Rubicon trim, but as low level as you can get. That one in 2023 sticker price is $5,000 more than a 2025 sticker price base Rubicon. So we got numbers that are coming down, but we're never going to see, I don't think we'll ever see 35% on anything, in my opinion. But it's nice that Rams, they got rid of Tavares, and they're looking at it going, we need to slash prices, drop them, so that's a nice thing.
So here we go on just doing a nationwide search. We're looking at 29,000 for a tradesman, but I was finding, even some bighorns the other day that were around 33,000. So kind of depends. I mean, these are all going to be the 3.6, right? And they're probably, maybe these aren't 4-wheel drive. Maybe they are. It's hard to, you'd have to sort through them, but yeah, they're discounting. I just don't know. It's always the same story with these manufacturers. It's like, we'll discount things, but it's not the engine someone wants, or it's not this, or it's not, there's always feels like there's some catch to it, or we'll discount them and then you get horrible financing. It's right. Like, you could take the good financing and pay $10,000 more. That seems to be the game right now. And hopefully it'll stabilize and we'll get both incentives and lower prices here really soon. It just depends on, all the market conditions and stock.
Yeah. And I think Ram's going to pull it together pretty good. I got high hopes for Ram. I mean, they have done, Ram builds such an incredible truck. and they had such a reputation of being good trucks over the last, 8-10 years. They've done such a great job on everything, and then all of a sudden they tried to become that luxury pricing, and they just went astronomical in the pricing, and it came back to bite them, and now they got to bounce back from that. And you know how hard it is for these brands to bounce back from things, and now they got to come back from that. And if Tavares wouldn't have done that, if they would have just paid attention earlier to what the market was saying, I think they'd have done a lot better. Look at the reputation Jeep has now, because of that kind of stuff. When they were charging, when you got a Gladiator Rubicon that's coming in at almost $80,000 MSRP 2 years ago, we got a problem,
Yeah. Yeah. And I see people in the comments, there's two schools of thought. I drive a used car still. Still drive my 2008. But we also have a new car that my wife drives. And, it depends on what stage of life you're in. If you were talking to me 7 years ago when I was, or, 8 years ago, whenever it was, and I'm getting out of debt. Yeah. I'm driving old beaters, and I had made a bunch of financial mistakes, and I'm working 2 jobs, paying off all my debt, credit card debt, car loans, everything, just getting completely square so that, I can enjoy finer things in life later on. And man, it's a brutal process. But even with today's prices, I could buy a new car, but I'm not, I see where people are coming from. Even though I could go buy one, I don't want to, just because I look at the way they're designed and built, and I'm like, man, they really ride nice. It's great. They're quiet, great power, but I don't want to drive it yet. And I haven't been forced to buy them yet. So if we're talking about used vehicles, I still, looking at this guy in the comments, I would still recommend, if you can go to carcomplaints.com or some website where you can filter the reliability, but look for port injection Toyotas, that are, or Nissans from like 2010 to 2018, that range. They were boring. They didn't have tech that was uploading all your data to the cloud. They weren't tracking you. They didn't have a lot of the stuff that fails on newer vehicles. You were talking about sensors and all the electronics that could fail on these new vehicles. When I remember the only thing I really wanted in my Sequoia was CarPlay. So out of all the new features that I see in these vehicles, the big screens, everything, I don't really care about. I don't want the automatic cruise control anymore because it burns your brakes up. I don't want a lot of the auto headlights. I don't care about as much as some people. So all the high-tech features that come through the camera reading and AI and all that stuff, I just don't care about it. I want CarPlay, wireless CarPlay, and I'm kind of good, And so that when you look behind the dash of one of these old Sequoias or the old Tundras in that heyday of 2008 to 21, it's just a gaping hole of air and like one wiring harness. It's the coolest thing. And that's why they're so reliable. They were just basic.
Yeah. And I go around with that a lot. Like I have 2 different versions here. I have my Gladiator, which is basic as it gets, and it's a Rubicon, but it's basic inside, Yep. And I don't have heated seats. I don't have any of that kind of stuff in there. It's just simple and functional, and it works. And I enjoy driving a lot. Then I go get in Tina's where she wanted we got the sunroof, the tech packages, the leather seats that cool you down and they heat you up and your steering wheel does this stuff. And I get in it and it's like, why are my hands burning? Oh, I got to turn. And it's like, what is going on here? And my back end is cool. And then it's making all this noise. I'm like, do you hear that? What is making all that noise? It's like, hold on. I don't know. Oh, it's coming from your seat. The blower motor's on full bore automatically because of the temperature thing. And it's like, I don't know how to turn half of this stuff off, and so it's really cool. It's there, and she loves it. She knows all these things and where every button is. Me, it's like I don't understand half this stuff. I don't want to deal with it. I just want to get in and go. If I want it hotter, I'll turn the knob to make it hotter. In hers, I got like, where's the do this? And it's just that tech is a little bit different for a lot of us that are looking for the simple, basic kind of stuff. And it's maybe I'm getting old, but it scares me. Like my wife though, she goes through that stuff like it's no big deal and tears it up, and she loves it and she wants it. And like she hates driving the Gladiator. She's like, no, it's boring, it's simple, it's too much. I want to give me my rocket, she says, with her CR2. So it's a different, funny how the whole world's got something for everybody in every other corner. Yeah,
C-Tech's asking if the Tundra hybrid will fall under the engine recall. I don't think they've added it yet, have they?
I haven't heard nothing on it yet. There's been some that have went down that we saw on the forums,
yeah,
and that kind of stuff. But all I want from Toyota more than anything in the world is for them just to tell us the real thing that is going on. It couldn't have been debris in the engine for this many times, this many years in a row, and all this stuff going on. Just be open and honest and tell us what the problem is, how you're going to fix it, when it's going to be fixed, if it's all good, and then we move on and we make it right. That's all I want from them. It's the quietness and the shady behind the scenes and the lying, and it's like, come, just for real, just fix the problem and tell us it's fixed and prove it's fixed, and so we can start buying them and never care again.
Yeah, same engine. You knew it had all the same problems, so if it was a debris problem, all the hybrids would be affected as well. It's just the only reason it's not a safety recall is because quite literally you can get out of the way with your hybrid motor even if your engine fails, and that's the only reason it's not included, which, it's not like Toyota to be like that either, where they're not including everything that was affected. If it wasn't a safety recall, I almost wonder if they would have gone a different route and just extended warranties instead of doing this proactive replacement with crate engines. Because it's weird that you say, we had this problem for a year and a half in manufacturing, and we're only going to replace half or a third of them. That doesn't add up. So,
right. Does it mean they're going to keep adding to it later on? Does it mean that, because I could see where the hybrid may not have had some of the issues because they're usually not worked as hard as the non-hybrids are. Probably the reason a Sequoia doesn't have as many problems as a Tundra does. It's used as a cityfied, mom wagon in a good way. I don't mean that as a bad derogatory statement, but it's an SUV. It's not carrying a whole bunch of contractor stuff and doing work all the time and doing things like a typical non-hybrid Tundra is, so I can see where that issue could be, but we don't know what's happening, and Toyota just won't give us the reality facts of this.
Yeah, it's a frustrating deal. Hey, Tim's here. Tim, how's it going? Where's your popcorn? That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Tim, it's interesting because I put a video out cut it up with Tim today, and it is interesting. People, I think, get a little emotional about these topics. And, at times in the conversation, Tim said, that the cost of vehicle repairs are too high for what they are, but I don't think people hear that part of it. He was trying to be a little balanced, but it's tough to, going back to the RHO that CTEC and Tim bought. I saw a recent video of the RHOs, the Hurricane engines, and they said that the catalytic converters are becoming a problem. They're just kind of cooking themselves in these rental vehicles. And it's become a big issue with this tech that put it out on YouTube. And he kind of showed where the catalytic converters, or why they fail, and how to access them and how they have to replace them. And they code named the engine name the Crap Storm, and the Hurricane Crap Storm. But I wonder if that's going to become a problem too, where you see, the Hurricane's going to run through its first and second year issues just like Toyota did, or if they'll avoid the big issues.
Yeah, and with the Hurricane, the Hurricane's one of my favorite motors out there. I love the concept of an inline six. Love everything about it. It's simplistic, just like an inline four. Simple to work on, everything right there, access to both sides, balanced, less parts, everything about it. I have very high hopes for the Hurricane. And if their biggest issues that they're having so far is the fact that the thermostat housing was bad on a few of them and had to be taken care of, and the fact that the catalytic converters need to be moved back a little more next year, I'm all right with that. They're heading in the right direction. So I got high hopes for that one. I love that motor. I can't wait to see what that motor does. But back to your part, you were talking about, like what Tim's saying, expensive repairs. That I think I've made 7 or 8 videos now that are almost repetitive to the point of being nauseous. Is, get the extended warranty. That's my attitude, because of that. You're right. The cost of parts, the cost of time, the labor cost, all that kind of stuff. If you're buying a truck Get an extended warranty. I can't say it enough. Learn to buy one the right way. You don't have to pay $4, $5, $6,000 like your selling dealership's going to try and get you for it. Learn how to, shop them around. But at that extended warranty, there is nothing that makes me sleep better at night when it comes to trucks. I don't care if it's a Jeep, the 4Runner. I don't care if it's I don't care what it is. The thing that makes me sleep the best at night is that I can put 100,000 miles on that truck, no matter whether it takes me 2 or 5 years, and I don't have to ever worry about it under any circumstances. And if I sell it before that, it's prorated as a factory warranty. Give me some of my money back.
Yeah. Yeah. My biggest issue, and I know Tim talked about the just-in-time suppliers and all this stuff about why manufacturers can't keep up with, like, GM's latest issue with, the valve bodies. And I think where Tim catches a lot of flack, and it's probably, it's from people like me, is I just don't care. Whatever the manufacturer's excuse is, I'm basically going to hold up my middle finger and say, I paid $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 for this truck. I don't care that you have some manufacturing, reason why you can't deliver this valve body in 3 months to fix my truck. That shouldn't be in the shop in the first place. That's my whole argument to this thing. And I think that's where people are coming from. Even the people without these trucks, they might be there. I see it so often in the comments. They're like, I've been sitting on the sidelines. It's like they're waiting for the water to just stop, the waves to stop a little bit, and they want to jump in, but it's just not ready. They just don't feel comfortable yet. And I think we're almost there, and hopefully they'll get this fixed. But when you see General Motors saying, we're going to make $2 billion off of our Super Cruise subscriptions, it's like, oh, maybe you should use some of that to fix your transmissions. Yeah.
And your point about the part delay, there is nothing in this industry that pisses me off more than the back ordered parts, the part delays, and them not getting this solved for you. And it's GM's going on with the V8s right now. Look at Ford with the Bronco and the valve bodies, or the valves snapping off in there, and how people were waiting almost 9 and 10 months to get their Broncos repaired. And it's just every brand, every single company, every issue. It seems that we're supposed to be okay with the fact that you charged us a lot of money to buy this truck, and inside of that contract on that truck, you said we will keep your truck running through the duration of this warranty. We promise contractually to keep it on the road for you. And then when something goes down, we're now told, you know what, you're second row, no offense, but it's going to take us 3 months, 6 months, 8 months to get the part for you. Then we'll put you on the road. Oh, we'll give you a rental. Well, if it's an identical rental, if my Gladiator goes down, I use it for a living in the swamps. If it goes down and they give me another Gladiator and I can bring it back to them scratched up, beat up, and mud caked and everything, I'm okay with that deal. But if they're going to give me a Dodge Hornet as a car, I can't use that. Same with these guys that are out here making a living every day with their trucks, working. Their truck goes down. They can't lose their truck with their ladder racks and their cargo boxes and all their tools and the stuff. They can't lose this for 4 or 5 months or 3 months while we wait on a part, yet these assembly lines just keep right on trucking. They need to get somebody to walk out there and just grab a motor and just go, oh, we'll take that one and send that to the dealership. I know it's not that simple, but something has to happen. My biggest pet peeve in the auto industry is how we spend all our money, and then as soon as we wrote that check, we are now second. We don't come first for anything. We are back at the bottom of the list. We'll get to you when we can.
Yep. Eric Gomez says, what's your take on the Nissan Frontier? I think both of us feel the same way, but we'll let you answer for yourself. I really like the old, from around 2010 to 2018, 19 range before they went to the direct injection engine. And I like the new one as well. There just hasn't been a lot of problems. They didn't do a wholesale change on it. They just updated the engine and the transmission and the interior. They made it better. They made the seats a little bit better. I think the interior is a little nicer. It rides a little nicer. It's a little quieter. I like the design of the new one. But overall, the reliability has been awesome on the Frontier. It's just, for whatever reason, Nissan has a stigma due to that CVT really killed how people viewed the company. I've owned Titans. I've owned tons of Nissans that didn't have the CVT, and I never had any issues. They were just like Toyotas for me.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. Nissan makes a fantastic vehicle. Even their CVTs now are pretty reliable. I think it was, an issue in the 15s or what was it, 13 to 18 or something was where that was an issue there. But even those are proven pretty reliable. But Nissan is it is old hat. It is comfort food. It is a lot of those kind of things. It is a buy it and never. It's like how I feel about the extended warranties. You buy a Nissan Frontier and you never worry about anything. It starts when you drive it. It does what it wants to. Will I ever buy one? No, it's not my kind of truck. I don't want one. But it's like the 4Runner. I don't want to have the 4Runner no more. I'm bored with the 4Runner. But the 4Runner will always be a king of reliability. The Frontier is right there too. It will always be simple, functional, capable, reliable, and affordable. Everything that people look for in a truck today. It's why the Frontier is, I give it more praise than I do any other vehicle. And like I said, it's not something I would buy. No front lockers, doesn't fit my lifestyle, but it is probably, you got to have a lot of respect for the Frontier.
Yeah. This comment caught my eye. 100,000 miles on a Dodge is a milestone. I would say 100,000 miles on almost anything, including newer Toyotas now, is like this badge of honor. People are wearing it in the forums, even a Tundra, and they're like, hey, I hit 100,000. And it's like, well, yeah, but people, like you said about the 4Runner, I know people that just, they don't even remember the last time they did an oil change in some of those old 4Runners. And they're just, it has 300 or 400 or 500,000 miles on it. And they beat them, they overland them, they just go.
Yeah.
And work. Maybe those days are just gone.
Yeah. Well, and like he says in there too, he says, well, 100,000 miles on a Dodge was a milestone. Do you know how there is more Ram trucks, Dodge and Ram trucks with over million miles than any other vehicle out there in the world? Over 500,000. There's a whole club dedicated to them. I mean, no offense to, that kind of stuff. But I mean, Ram's always been phenomenal. Even when they were Dodge, yeah, they rusted out quick. Transmissions gave them some issues, but they just kept running and running and running. And same with the old Toyotas. Hopefully the new Toyotas, hopefully the new Rams, hopefully the Hurricane. Everything is a whole different shift in the world now. Everything that we used to know and love and relied on is gone, and everything now is new in a different world. And if it proves itself, fantastic. If it doesn't, hopefully the manufacturers fix it. In the meantime, give us parts quick enough to back up and keep us on the road so we're happy. That's kind of what it boils down to. But as far as this being a milestone of 100,000 versus that one, there's a bunch of us that look at it too and go, I don't know if I'd own a truck past 100,000 anymore. I don't know if I want to deal with it.
Yeah. What's funny is I was talking to Tim about this too, and it depends on how many miles you drive. You drive a ton of miles, so for you, 100,000 is what?
2.5 years. I'm 40,000 miles a year. Yep.
For me, right now, 100,000 is like, I don't know, a decade. I don't know.
Well, and then you got time versus miles. Both of them were. Yeah.
So then it's so different for everybody and what they're doing. And Tim was comparing to like the 3-liter Duramax. Like if you're doing a bunch of highway miles, man, that getting 30 miles to the gallon in that 3-liter Duramax versus everything else getting 20 or less or 23 or less, that's a big difference in cost.
Oh, Barry, right now, CTAC, he's on there, right? As you said that, I'm sure he's already working a calculator. He knows every MPG for everything, and he knows what it costs. He's a stickler for that, and he'll, but you're absolutely right. But he'll come back with the numbers of how many thousands you save, for the year. Yeah. But MPG, it's massive. I mean, you're a couple miles per hour for the average person is a few $100, $400 or $500 a year. So you're right. It's a huge factor. But on the flip side, that diesel also requires you to buy DEF, and it also requires you to pay $1 more per gallon for the diesel. You know, so there's always those catch-22s. It'd be nice to have a Prius motor in a Nissan Frontier. Get 55,000 or 55 miles a gallon and still have the Frontier.
Yeah, I saw someone else in the comments talking about their 3 liters in the shop. Some problem, 10,000 miles too. So, it's not all roses with every engine, but they sold a lot of GM. I don't think people realized last year. I think GM, didn't they outpace Ford in the half tons? I think
when you combine them,
they just beat everybody.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of have the looks, they have everything except for reliability.
Yeah. Well, and again, that's like I'm saying. Everybody goes through these phases, you know. I mean, Ford went to go through it, then Toyota goes through it. Now GM's going through it. Next week it'll be Ram that's going. It just never fails. It's a crapshoot on whatever it is, you know. So that's why I say, you know, whatever you buy what you like that's out there. They're all basically equal and a wash to each other, and put an extended warranty on it. It's just, and I don't sell warranties, and I don't get any. I'm not. This isn't. It benefits me in no way, but I think it benefits the people. If they look for me, I will never own it without an extended warranty, unless I was going to drive it and sell it before I hit my factory warranty, which many people like you, that could mean that you're going to drive it for 3, 4, 5 years before or 3 years before you hit. And then you got powertrain for another 50 or 60. If you bought that 2.7, the 2.7 Turbo Max, you get 100,000 mile, 10-year, right? I think it's 10-year, 100,000 mile powertrain warranty.
Yeah. Yeah, there's someone that says, should you lease these days with all the issues? It is a thought process that people have. They're like, well, if you're going to buy it and cycle them every 2 or 3 years anyway, is a lease a better deal? And it might be cheaper if you know who you are and you're the type of person that I always refused to believe back in the day when I was just cycling cars every 6 months, you know, for 15 years straight. I was like, like Tim said, I'm going to keep this car forever. And it's 6 months, it's gone, you know. The lease was nice to actually force me to hold on to something more than a year. And then it's a lower price. But you still have, you know, you still have to shell out that capital. Usually they're not zero down leases unless it's just a screaming deal. Depends on what you're getting, depends on who you are, I think.
That's a great way. And when you look at that, I think the math has to work, and you have to know what you're capable of. If you're somebody who likes to negotiate and is going to get the good deal, and you're going to buy something and you're going to get it for 15% off MSRP, and then you're going to drive it, even if you drove it for this, you know, a 3-year, 36,000 miles, like you're going to get on a 3-year, 36 lease, and you're going to turn around and sell it. If you know that you got it at 15% off and you do that math, buying it and selling it's going to be way more productive by thousands of dollars. If you're not somebody that's going to do that, leasing it, and you know you get a lower payment, you're going to walk away from it. It's going to be easy peasy. You don't have a care in the world, but you're going to pay more money over somebody that does. Now, again, we're talking average leases. You do the math, because some lease deals, what they just have Wranglers for, what was it, 6 months ago, you could get a Wrangler 4xe for $99 a month or something with like $5,000 down. That was a smoking deal. You know, I mean, so you do find some out there, but always just do the math and be honest with yourself. Too many people are like, well, if I buy it, I know I can get this kind of percentage off. Can you really? Are you really doing it? So do the math, be honest with yourself, see how it works out, and go either way.
Yeah. Yeah. This comment caught my eye too. The people make excuses to buy new cars. And I think, so there's this camp that gets frustrated because they say, like, the new Tundra is supposed to get better mileage, or I think there's this perception that it was supposed to be more efficient, right? Better emissions, better on gas mileage. And so it is better than the old Tundra a little bit, but not much. So everybody says, well, why did you do it? And I did a video on this not too long ago. The real reason all of these manufacturers are going turbo is they're chasing power. So they have the CAFE restrictions or the mandates, whatever you want to call them. They're not really mandates, but they kind of are, because they use financial incentive to get better gas mileage across the whole company. But everybody's chasing power. So if you want to compete as Toyota with what Ford did, Ford started this trend with the EcoBoost. And I made video about this. Every single time TFL goes up there and says the F-150 is our winner because it towed 10,000 pounds and I still had plenty of power left. And so they're trying to make an engaging video for them. It works for their company. It gets views, and it's something that if someone tows a lot, it's valuable because it's a really tough towing test at 11,000 feet. So you get an idea of how that truck really behaves under the worst conditions. So you're like, okay, I know it can handle this. But the problem is it almost becomes like this game of like, my truck's faster from stoplight to stoplight, and people are racing their trucks. And it's like, when I'm towing, I'm going 55 or 60. I'm usually not towing 70 miles an hour. I'm just not that type of guy that feels comfortable going insanely fast. Just because the truck feels good, there's still that thing back there that can just swing and go every which way, or the wind can take you off in Wyoming. So it's such a weird market. And I don't know, what do you think about the whole
when it
reason
comes,
they went turbocharged?
Again, I have a lot of respect for a naturally aspirated motor. I do, but even going back to the EcoBoosts, which is that's where most of my turbo experience comes from, is EcoBoost and 5.4 Tritons to 5-liter Coyotes to EcoBoost 2.7s to even 3.5, that kind of stuff. And now having a 2.7 into Colorado, I spend a ton of time towing. Even the Ram, coming, it's diesel, but it's it's still turbo. But all that stuff, every turbo vehicle I drive is more smooth, more calm, more relaxed. It tows better, it drives better, it handles elevation without any significant problems like you do. You lose a tremendous amount of power with naturally aspirated. Me personally, in my opinion, I would much rather drive a turbo than I would a naturally aspirated if I'm towing. You don't have to listen to the motor roaring all the time. Again, and I'm not knocking them. I love the naturally aspirated motors, and I love the simplicity of them. But if you were to put me in two different trucks and I never knew what engine was in them, and you had me tow from here to Montana, like I was telling you, and actually Barry from SeaTac, we would do this stuff every year, go out there and chase unicorn snowstorms, and we would have three guys jammed in an F-150 with a 5-liter, or an F-150 with a 3.5, or when he got his 250. But we would be traveling across the country doing this stuff, pulling 7,000-pound trailers loaded with snowmobile gear, and in crappy conditions. And I think every one of us say the same thing. The turbo was the truck you would take. It would be the comfortable one.
Yeah, I like quiet power. I don't. After a while, when you're on a trip, especially, or you're towing up a big mountain pass, I don't want to hear the V8 anymore. I like it when I get in my car for about 30 seconds, like Barry, and then I'm like, okay, I want it quiet.
You're right. Yeah, you hear it. It's neat. I always think back, if you remember Ford versus Ferrari, that movie. I love that movie.
Yeah.
And when he gets in the car, when Matt Damon, he gets in there and he fires up that, his 427 here, and he closes his eyes and he just lets it hover right there, like about 1,500 hours, and he just sucks it in. That's amazing. And I get it 100%. And there's a lot of neat stuff, that you can feel from that engine noise and what you're getting out of there and the rumble. But then again, you start driving it for a while and it kind of gets old, and you get sick of the running there like that, and you just turbos smooth things out. They're I'm not anti V8, I'm not anti turbo, I'm not anything, but if I have to be 100% honest, if you're giving me a choice in a full size truck today, I'm kind of leaning more towards the turbos for what I want to do with them. So it's kind of my thought on it.
Yeah, if I was involved in any sort of engineering for one of these large companies, I would want to take that Duramax, the 3-liter, because that's my style. I'm not going to ever tow more than what that can tow. And I don't need a 3/4 ton. I'm just not towing that large a load. And I'd take that, get rid of the wet oil pump belt, and do some updates to it that I would want to do, like get rid of that plastic finned water pump. There's all sorts of little things that bug me, but that'd be the one I would want to go towards, or want all the other manufacturers to look towards. I don't think people really need much more than 500 foot-pounds of torque in a half ton. I think that's fine for 7,000 pound loads. You're going to be able to move along just fine. And the reason I like it over any of the other designs from Ford, Toyota, the RHO, all of them, I don't like twin turbo designs. I hate all the plumbing. I don't like dual intercoolers on the outside and then one over the top, and all the extra. You've got an extra water pump. You've got all this extra plumbing that it's just slightly less plumbing on the single turbo inline six. And, it's just, I don't know. That's what I would go with. And I would hope manufacturers would go towards that. But man, it is the complexity's up there. That's for sure on these new engines.
Yep, no doubt about it. And that 3-liter is, it's beautiful that GM gives us the option to get a diesel in a half ton. You know, I mean, how great is that? It's we don't have that option anywhere else, and people love it. Look at when they put it in the Gladiator too. When Ram had the diesel, in the Gladiator, those are fantastic things. And fortunately, GM still offers us that. They still offer us 2 V8s. They still offer us a 4-cylinder in there. I mean, look at all the stuff they're doing there. I mean, GM's killing it with that kind of stuff. I got mad respect for what GM does.
Yeah, they just need to fix this valve body, man, and then they'll be fine. Ford doesn't have the same issue. I'm going to do that in a new video here soon. So we'll be talking about all the latest transmission problems with GM. It's gotten worse.
Look how long Ford's had them. Look at that 10-speed has been, I mean, I wasn't doing truck videos back then, but if I was, it would have been every other week would have been some kind of complaint about a Ford 10-speed, I mean,
yeah, it was funny. They jumped on it early.
Yeah.
They released it a little earlier. They had the problem with that little sleeve inside and, some other problems that GM didn't have. And then they updated it. I think 2023 Ford's kind of got smoothed out a little bit, but they had a ton of issues. And then now it's GM's turn. So
that's it. Their turns. Like you said, they just rotate right on through. It's like every brand has to go through the phases of something, thank God they do, because it gives us something to talk about, good or bad.
Right.
But on the same note, we still want more than anything is for we would love it if every brand was 100% reliable and you never worried about nothing, but it would be a lot quieter and a lot less videos released weekly.
Yeah. I really can't complain about what the manufacturers are doing. It's given us so much to talk about. I see that in the comments sometimes, like, man, you guys are never going to be short of ideas, because the direction that they're headed, I don't think we're going to be in for more reliable cars long term. I think it'll be the 100 to 200,000 mile range. We're going to start seeing it'll be like BMWs. People think these modern trucks are more reliable. I don't think they're going to necessarily all spin bearings and fail catastrophically between 1 and 200,000 miles. But if you remember how BMW went through a moment for a decade or so, they didn't necessarily have catastrophic failures of their engines. It was just all the stuff around them, all the electronics, like Tim was saying, it was everything around them, and all the fiber optic and little CAN networks that they have. And and then the engines were fairly reliable. You get some of those little 3-liter inline 6 BMWs, they'll go 200,000 or 300,000 miles, no problem.
Isn't that the one they put in the Ineos? Isn't that the same one they put in the Ineos Grenadier? I think so. I think that's what's in that in the Quartermaster.
It may be. I think in 2011 when they went to the N55, they had some issues with the bearings. It's the same thing. It's like BMW is ahead in technology usually, and then people kind of adopt what they developed. It seems like they'll do something and then fail at it, and then everybody else adopts it later. But you would think they learned from what BMW had struggles with. They had the N55 engines in 2011. That's when they started throwing bearings in the rods and having the same problems you see nowadays, where the N54 before that, it's a twin turbo inline 6, and that thing was forged lower internals. People would get those 335s and just, they'd boost them to 450, 500 horsepower with a JB4 mod and just destroy them. And they'd run 200,000 or 300,000 miles, pushing almost 450 horsepower to the rear wheels, But it's just, it's going to be problems. I think it's going to be a lot of expensive repairs for people, unfortunately.
Well, with that too, now I got a question for you, honestly, is so we compare the Tacoma, we compare the Tundra, we compare the lineup that's the Colorado that's out. Okay, these new versions of trucks that are out, they're selling like hotcakes compared to what the previous gens were. They're loaded up with more tech, more turbos, more stuff like this in there. If we're a manufacturer and we're looking at trying to produce vehicles, and we see this trend, I mean, is it really, look at the ratio of people that want this new stuff. Same with, again, you hear the reference to appliances, but look at, you got, when you walk into Home Depot, you got an $800 2-door refrigerator freezer combo right here. It's $800 and simple, and yet they sell, they're going to sell like 10 of them. And then right next to it's the Samsung something or another that like it changes colors and it talks to you and it does all this weird stuff for $5,000, and yet they can't keep them in stock. Yeah. So when you look at it and you think about that, is the stuff that we hate, which is all the tax, the problems, the issues, the things coming. They're still, when we cut it, it's got to be customer driven. The customer, if you're building trucks, you build what people want. And it seems like a lot of people want this stuff in there. I've never had a truck with massaging seats, and I'd probably fall asleep going down the road with it on there, but I'm not going to lie. I wouldn't mind sitting on one for a minute and see what it was like.
Yeah. Tim talked about that too. It's a weird market, and they definitely didn't make the wrong decisions from a marketing perspective. The execution's been terrible. If they've definitely made vehicles that look nice. People like driving them. They love the power. Any electric cars kind of spoiled some people with that instant torque, and a turbocharged engine gets you closer to that. It feels a little more like that electric torque. And people love driving them. People love all the features. It's just, I think intuitively, most people know what's coming. They're like, yeah, these are really nice when they're new. They're really nice under warranty. But like you said, if you're buying any car after that's a 2020 or newer, and if it's approaching or out of your powertrain warranty, I never would have considered an extended warranty. Like you said, never. I would just rather research reliable vehicles and buy that way. But nowadays, if I was buying certain vehicles and it was, 60,000 miles or up and it's a twin turbo engine, yeah, I'm probably going to think about a warranty.
Yeah.
Try to get a better deal on the price, and then or get them to throw in a warranty and make sure that it covers the specifics on your intercoolers, your turbos, make sure it covers the actual components, not just internal engine components, because that's how they word those extended warranties a lot of the time. They just won't cover, the things that are expensive, like a $4,000 turbocharger on a Tundra.
Right. Yep. And, I was just my buddy, James, I actually made a video about that where I was talking about that fixer for the insurance stuff on there. Good to have. But actually, he sent me a text on it because I asked him what it was, because I'm going to make a video on it. But if when you buy an extended warranty from factory, you're getting it from the manufacturer. But once you get out of 36,000 miles, if you're buying a used one, like you're talking about, you buy a used truck with 100,000 miles on it, you may or may not have options out there. And he actually had one. Now, when I say this, I'm not, it's not 100% vetted from me yet or anything, but he got Cars Protection Plus, is that warranty I mentioned in the video. Cars Protection Plus, and again, don't take my word for it yet, but that one, he bought it that F-250 with 180,000 miles on it, and he put a unlimited mile warranty on it for $3,600 from this Cars, whatever I just told you it was. He put that on there, and then 2 years later, with over 200,000 miles on that truck, has the fuel pump go out on a diesel, and they cover everything 100%. Take care of everything for him without question, no nothing, and they let him use whatever shop he wanted, and they took care of him. And it's unlimited mile warranty. So there's things out there like that to kind of give that peace of mind to the people that are buying used today. But I agree with you. If you're buying a 10 or 15-year-old truck, there's no reason to put a warranty on it, because you could still work on them and do things.
Yeah.
If you're getting something, 2020 or newer, and you don't have the skill set and the computers and the time for that, if you're going to take a vehicle to a shop, the cost of repairs at the shop have gone up astronomically.
Mm-hmm.
And the cost of parts have. I'd rather just let a warranty do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a wild market. Well, we went over 20 minutes over the hour mark.
We were trying to cut it in an hour and then save it and do the rest another time.
Yeah. But we can probably cut it here. I think, it's a struggle to watch something, to watch people say the same thing over and over for an hour. So,
yeah. And we can always do another one.
What's that?
We can always just do another one another time.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's a blast. I'm glad Tim, invited me to do that one. And this is my second live stream. So I just really enjoy him. we talked last night for 3 hours. My wife can't stand it, but I can talk about cars all day and trucks. So
yep.
Yeah, it's a blast. But yeah, thanks for coming. Thanks to everybody in the comments. And yeah, anything else you want to?
I haven't even looked at comments. I'm glad you were catching them. I wasn't even watching them. I was just listening.
I was scanning them and trying to, I didn't get all of them, obviously. So, but you try.
Yeah, I'll put them down in the comments below. We'll answer them for you in the comments. If we didn't catch them in the live chats, throw them in the comments, and that way, once we're done here, we'll go back through and answer any questions that I can.
Yeah, we'll post replays, and then we'll probably cut up the bits and pieces for those that didn't make it. Sounds good. Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it.
Hey, man, appreciate you having me on. It was a lot of fun.